Gemara. Today's daf is daf Pei Zayin. We are up to the Mishnah. We're continuing to learn the dinim about a moicher and a lekeach, a buyer, a seller, and a buyer, and when it becomes the buyers, if it's in the vessels of the buyer or the seller. So the Mishnah says, "Hamoicher yayin v'shem lechaveiroi." If somebody sells wine or oil to his friend, v'hukru, and then the price went up. So the price went up. Obviously, the seller wants to get out so he can sell it again to somebody else for a higher price. The price went down. Obviously, the buyer wants to get out so that he can buy it at a cheaper price. So it depends. If the vessel is not full yet, it did not yet transfer ownership to the buyer, there's still the vendors, and he can go ahead and change his mind. But once it is full, the lekech, it's already now belongs to lekech, and it's too late. Nobody can walk away from it. Then he says, that's case number one. Now, we discussed before that it depends whose vessel it is. If it's in the vendor's vessel, it's always the vendor. If it's in the buyer's vessel, whatever came in first, he's kindness. So what exactly the Mishnah is saying here, whose vessel is it, and so on, we'll see soon. If there was a mekler, what do you call it? An agent in between them, then he's responsible if it breaks sometime while it's in his control. He is responsible. He is liable. Now, what exactly we're talking about? Whose keli is it? The Gemara will discuss in a minute. Now we say, after you pour all the oil, when the Mishnah pays Zayin Amar Aleph. So you sold wine and oil to your friend, and then you can change your mind as long as who can change the mind? If the keli is not full, the moicher can change his mind. Once the keli is full, the buyer can change his mind. Cannot change his mind anymore. It belongs now to the buyer. And now we say that if there is someone in between, a broker who brokered the whole thing, then and it breaks, we'll soon see when, he's just liable. Now you sold the oil, whatever was in the barrel. You sold it. Then after you pour all the contents of the barrel out, you got to give another 3 drops. There's always some residue. You got to give him an extra 3 drops. After the entire oil comes out, then you take the barrel and tip it over again, and another 3 drops have to come out. Then, what happens if hirkina umitzis, when you put the barrel back down, sit a little bit, then you tilt it a little bit, suddenly you'll find there's still always a residue of oil on the bottom. Who owns that? Remember, the buyer went and said, I want all the contents of this barrel. So who owns mamish, the last drops that's sitting on the bottom of the barrel after you took out your 3 drops? Then hareshel moicher. It belongs to the moicher. Why does it belong to the moicher? The Gemara thinks right now because even though you bought all the contents, you didn't buy the last few drops because it won't come out. So it's like you're never part of it. Yeah, there's always something left. And the Gemara will come back to that soon. But if you're a storekeeper and you're selling oil and you're busy, you can't stand there all day and keeping it dripping out. Once he pours out all the contents, everything comes out. You don't understand and try again to make another 3 drops come out. And Rabbi Yehuda says, Erev Shabbos im chashecha potter. I excuse you, Erev Shabbos, you're busy, you're potter. Now, is he being machmir regarding this chenveni, that even the chenveni has to do it only Erev Shabbos is potter? Or is he being makel that this din everybody has to do 3 drops, but not Erev Shabbos? Which one is it? Says the Gemara. Let's first analyze the Mishnah. Hamida demand, this vessel, whose vessel is it? You're telling me that if it's half full, the moicher can change his mind. You tell me if it's full, then the lekech is too late, it's been bought. Whose keli is it? If the vessel of the lekech, what do you tell me that Kozman is not full? The moicher can change his mind. Why? It's whatever fell into the vessel of the lekech automatically belongs to the lekech. Now, the truth of the matter is, we listened yesterday. It depends. If you said I'm selling you the contents of the barrel, then Coles like 30 saw, then Kozman you didn't get the entire contents. The deal hasn't happened. But we also said that our mission is talking about where there were lines in this vessel, and you said you're selling, I'm going to sell you all the contents, $1 a kilo. So whatever came in so far, by each marker, the lekech is kind because it's as if you're not selling it just all the contents, but you broke it down into whatever liters. So, but since the Mishnah is saying it's tam, it includes all cases. Sounds like even in that case where it should belong to lekeach, because you have these shnosses, you have these lines, and he said, I'm selling you $1 a liter. Still, if the keli is not full, it belongs to the meicher. Why? If it's the lekech keli, it should belong to the lekech. Yeah, middle lekechi. If the sorry, Ajnal middle lemeicher, middle lekechi. The Ella must be talking about here that middle lemeicher must be talking about that this vessel belongs to the vendor, and that is why, as long as it's not full yet, the vendor can change his mind because it's still in his possession. So the obvious question is that when it is full, so what? If it's still in the vendor's keli, it's still a vendor's. How did it become the lekeach? Mission is mala middle lekeach. When it's full, it goes lekeach. Middle lemeicheri. What's going on here? The midas sarser, the keli is a third party. And if you remember, we learned one of the first one of the cases was if the keli belongs to a third party and he lent it to both of them, and the deal is that you're going to use this keli to measure and sell it to lekech. So there we say, Kolzman is not full, it's still in the meicher's possession, but once it's full, it transfers to lekech. That's what we're talking about here. So this keli does not belong to either one, belongs to the sarser, to this broker. Freddy Gemara is talking about the broker. Look at the next case. Well, I mean, Tony Sefer says in the next case, the Imha Sarser name. There was a broker between them. Nishbara Hachavis, the barrel broke. Nishbara Lasarser. Then the broker is responsible. I mean, and now we're introducing the keli belongs to the broker. I mean, it's the first case in the Mishnah is not the broker's keli. We're not talking about the broker. Obviously, the keli is either the vendors or the buyers. What's going on here? Says no. Reish, they're both talking about the keli of the sarser of the broker. Reish is talking about mida below sarser. He's not involved. He said, "Here, take my keli." So it's a third party's keli, and you work it out. I'm the broker. I made the shidduch. So then we say, as long as it's not full, it's still within the possession of the vendor. The moment it's full, it transfers over to the buyer. Or the sefer is talking about sarser atzma, which is own keli. If it's the sarser's keli, then it does not transfer ownership until he finishes it up, and the sarser is responsible if anything happens. So the big machlekes Tosfos and the Rashbam, how do we understand the role of a broker? Tosfos, as Rashbam learns, that if the broker is the shotgun and he brings his own vessel there, and he says to the Meich, okay, pour it in here and we'll give it to the Lekeach, then you know how he said we view it as if the sarser bought it. The commission that he gets is not a commission, and he's not involved. He's a buyer, and now he becomes a seller. So let's say the commission is 10%. It was $100 item, so he gets 10%. He gets $10. So the pshat is really he bought it for 90, and he sells it for 100, and that $10 is a sale price. That's how we view commission. That's the Rashbam. Tosfos doesn't like that at all, because if that's the pshat, then why talk about if it breaks? Who's responsible? The Sarsh is responsible. Continue the same theme as before. If the price goes up or the price goes down, the Sarsh now owns it, right? According to Rashbam, the Sarsh now owns this oil. So if the price goes up, he said, "Hey, I'm not going ahead with the seller to you because I'm the seller. He's no longer the seller. I'm the seller. I'm going to sell it to another person because I can get a lot more money," and so on. Why do the Bryce introduce a new case? So therefore, Tosfos learns that no, it's talking about that the Sarser is a commission agent. But he is more than just standing there. He actually implements it. So he takes the oil from the guy, the thing, like a shayman, and he's now pouring it in, and he's getting paid. So he's responsible for things that happen, unless it's an onus. If it wasn't an onus, for example, he wasn't so careful when he was pouring the oil on the barrel, and it fell out of his hands, but he wasn't so careful. That's what he's talking about. So it's an interesting view of how we view commission. How do we view the whole idea of commission? You're totally extraneous to what's happening. I'm a third party altogether. Or no, I'm really the middleman. Exactly. Interesting idea. Okay. Says the Gemara further. Says the Mishnah here. Kino mitzvah shlomoich. Here kisalig Rabbi Lazar. Now Rabbi Lazar's role with Rabbi Yochanan was no different than Rabbi Yehuda's role with Rabbi Shmuel. You always have Rabbi Shmuel because he was the main Talmud. Rabbi Lazar was the main Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. In fact, we had the Gemara where Rabbi Yochanan was upset. Rabbi Lazar said something not in his name, and it was directly he was very upset, and he wanted to kill him. So they defended him and said, "Look, everyone knows that Rabbi Lazar, whatever he says, came from you. He doesn't have to say every single time Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lazar, because you are his. He is your favorite Talmud, and you are his favorite Rebbe, and everything he's saying in your name." So the Gemara said, but for a while, Rabbi Lazar came from Bava. So he also learned by Shmuel. So Kisolik Rabbi Lazar, when Rabbi Lazar went to Eretz Yisrael, Ashke, he found Lizi'idi. Amalei said, Mi Kantana, the Asniya Rav, is there a Tani, the two Yisraelis, whether is this someone who taught Rav, or is this someone that Rav taught Midas? the laws about of these sales here. Did anybody teach you these dinners? Did Rav explain what's going on here? What's going on here? They showed him Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Avdimi. And Taisa says there were two Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Avdimis, one who could have been a Rebbe of Rav, and another one lived in time of Rav. But if you learn the other Gisa that who did Rav teach, and it could be that this Rav Bar Avdimi was older than Rav, and maybe he lived a long life and he learned from Rav. Anyway, Amalei Michael Kasha, Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Avdimi said to Rabbi Lazar, "What's bothering you?" So he said, "I'll tell you what's bothering me. It's now we learned Hirkino mitzvah. We say that any leftover residue oil, even though the Lekeh said I'm buying all the contents of the barrel, anything left over the bottom belongs to the Meichen. In other words, it's not part of the deal of the sale." The next question, didn't we learn Hirkino mitzvah harei that we say that if you measure truma with a barrel and you poured out all the contents, and then there's a drop left over there, we say that is considered truma. But you're telling me that whatever's left is not part of what the contents. So obviously it's not part of the contents of the truma. So why should we consider it truma? Amalei ha'it malad, you misunderstood. Of course it belongs to the lekech, and of course it's truma because it's part of the oil. Navas. Why doesn't the Baal Habas, the vendor, have to give it to lekech? This is a din in Mamonis that the guy is not, he knows that he's going to be some leftover, and he's not interested in staying there for 2 hours. And when every drop comes out, so he's meyayish on it. So he's meyayish. When it comes to truma, it's halachas of truma. The fact is that it's part of the contents of the barrel. If you use the bezer with truma, then whatever's in there is truma. Says the Gemara. We want to know what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. Is Rabbi Yehuda saying, you said that every single person has to give 3 additional drops. Come, don't even say, but not as a Shabbos because you're quite busy. So therefore, maybe the guy's Michael. You say a storekeeper is exempt because he's phenomenal, he's busy. But maybe Rabbi Yehuda is being mach, but the only time that a storekeeper is free is Friday afternoon. So Shema, the time let the Brayse clear up. You know, but Erev Shabbos the Chashech Chen v'ni Potter b'pnei shechen v'ni Torah. He's only limiting it the Chen v'ni to Erev Shabbos. Mishnah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting case of it. And you ran a store, so you would know a little bit about this. Hashaleach es b'noi eitzel chen v'ni. A guy sends his kid, who's a young kid, irresponsible, reckless in a way, sends him to a storekeeper upundin b'yodeh. Pundin, some are good, some are not good. Pundin is the value of 2 isari. And he said to him, go, he gave him $1, said, buy me a loaf of bread. A loaf of bread is only 50 cents. So he expects his son to come home with a loaf of bread and 50 cents change. But remember, the son is irresponsible. The storekeeper gave the son the loaf of bread and the money, and then the kid lost it. Who's responsible? You lost the bread or lost the money, or lost both. Now, you would think, what's the shayla? The father sent his son over there, and so obviously the father trusts his son. What do you want from the storekeeper? He shouldn't trust the son. Forget the father be baladik. I sent him. Why don't you send the bread back with him instead of sending Uber Eats? So he says like this. And so a punyan has 2 isser. So he measured 1 isser of oil, the nosleis isser, and then he gave him change. Shavad esat shleichis. The kid on the way home dropped the glass bottle, and or he lost the money. He did both. Pretty amazing halacha. The owner of the store is responsible. We'll soon see why. We'll soon see why. Yeah. So we will soon see the Gemara gives different explanations what's going on there. Rabbi Yehuda Potter. Rabbi Yehuda has Potter. Amanas Kain Shochet. The father sent the kid to pick up the oil and get the change. So what do you want? Can't have time as a chemini. The Chachamim will say, no, the father was just sent the kid as a messenger. This is what I want to buy. You work out a way to send it to me. Get a delivery man, get a delivery person to send it to my house. I sent my kid. I just sent him to notify you. That's what Tanakh was. However, if the kid held onto the glass jar, never gave it to the owner. No, but still, we're talking about the kid gave the glass jar to the owner, said, "Here, fill it with oil." So once the owner had it in his hand, he had no right to give it back to a kid because now the owner is giving it to someone irresponsible. But if the kid never gave it up, he was holding it in his hand, he said, "Please fill it up." My father said, "You should fill up this jug." Then the Chamaida Umadat Chenvin L'Taycha Chenvin Pater. In that case, you are Pater. Gemara explains what's going on. Sorry. No. 1 second. He's potted only from the glass jar. He's still chayiv for the oil. He's still chayiv for the coin that he lost. But there's three things now. There's a jar. There's the oil, and there's the isser. So before we were, we're talking about not only is the chenvin chayiv for the oil that the kid lost and the money, but plus the jar that the kid came with in the first place. That's how we seem to learn the Mishnah. Let's see the Gemara. I understand when it comes to the coin and to the oil, that's the argument. He only sent the kid to tell the guy just what I want. Excuse me. No, he sent the kid to be the messenger.
Just changed.
Yeah, but he
didn't give him anything.
He gave him an issa. The moment doesn't matter what the guy came with. That's the father's cheshbon. But you gave him the moment you put something in his hand. You're the one who's responsible. Exactly. We even had, if you remember, if a guy the shliach goes to pick up money from a borrower, and then the shliach loses the money, the borrower is still responsible. Remember the story of the papa had to do a hashah to this shliach over there to go and pick up the money, because otherwise the borrowers are not giving me the money, because if you lose it, I'm responsible. Because I gave it to him.
The other issue is just
yes, he's only yeah. So what?
So he's giving.
He gave it into his hand. He still gave it in his hand.
Who holds that the family should not have made the child a shliach to deliver. How then does the father have the ability to make the child a shliach to give a message?
We'll see. A father do every once.
No, but how can the child is?
We'll see in a minute. Yeah. Whatever. You see them in you talk a little bit hard to understand, but you see them in Ella Shabbat Shloichis. I don't understand. In the case where the glass bottle broke, or Shloich the bottle, Aved Medasi, the moment the father gave the child a glass bottle. I mean, the child didn't. The father knew the kid can drop the bottle. Did he know which way on the way to the store, the way back from the store? He had no idea. I mean, the father, didn't really care. It's an expensive bottle. The kid lost it, drops it, he drops it. So what do you call? So why should he pay for that? Why should the Balabais pay for that? He wanted oil. The Balabais would have to find another way to send oil, not through the glass jar, to send it with a delivery person in his own vessels. Amar Rabbi said, now the Gemara starts changing around the glass bottles. We're talking about that this Balabayis sells glass bottles. That's what he does. The glass bottle wasn't there as part of the oil and the Isa business. The glass bottle is a separate thing. He also sells glass bottles. And he wanted the Chenveni to buy the glass bottles. So he sent with his son the glass bottle. So what? So why is the Chenveni responsible? Okay, going should not le Chenveni amanas levaka. Now, this is a very important halacha. If a guy walks into your store and takes a glass coffee thing off the shelf, then drops it and breaks, is he responsible or not? So it's Shmuel said oversee. So since the Chenveni, we're talking about the Chenveni took the bottle from the kid's hands, and since the father sells bottles, so when the Chenveni took the bottle from the kid's hand, he took it to see whether it's good condition, good quality. It says, and the prices, and we talk about the prices fixed, and the prices are fixed, and who said he's going to buy? He knew exactly what the price is before he took it. Like in your store, it has a sticker that costs $1, $2, so he knows, and he's picking it up to see whether he's happy with the ingredients and so on and so forth. If he's happy, then he's going to buy it. It's as if he bought it already. And if he drops it, he's responsible. Okay, if you took a keli to see whether it meets your standards, the nenes beyond nenes yechayiv, like a shoyl yechayiv. So that's why the guy's chayiv. Now, in a store, the Gemara Nedarim adds one more condition. It has to be something that everybody wants. The vendor doesn't care if you end up buying it or not, because if you won't buy it, someone else will buy it. But everybody wants it. So because everybody wants it, if you picked it up, there's a good chance that you're going to buy it. So we need two conditions. We know the price, and that it's very desirable. So therefore, it's as if you bought it already. And if you put it back on the shelf, you decide not to buy. That's afterwards. So then you have to wonder, how do you treat merchandise, food in the store? Things sell all the time. Is that considered like everybody wants it? And therefore, the moment you take it off the shelf to look at it, you're ready, and you drop it, you're responsible. Or do we say, no, this is not like everybody wants it. It can sit itself for a long time. And it's not what you want to mean by kharifi, that, something that really everybody wants, even though you know the price. So you're not responsible or not. Okay. Anyway, I don't know if any customers ever would have paid for it if they dropped it.
Once I had a similar.
Speak louder. Yeah.
A lady came to the shop. She took from the fridge a jar of herrings. A jar.
Slipped out of her hands.
Moisture. She gave it to her little son to hold. His son must have been 4 years old.
4 years old.
It went right through his fingers and smashed. So I had to pay my work. I had to spend half an hour cleaning up the herring. The oil was all over the place. Ages to clean up. And I lost a jar of herring. And when I asked her, would you like to pay for it? She was so farrible. How dare you ask me that? How dare you? So, whatever. It was an important lesson to me.
And the high is so herring. So the Shmuel Tanai. If Shmuel is the one that says that we have a Yehuda says that the Chevron is potter. The Tanakama says the Chevron is chayiv for the glass. So maybe that what? So maybe this is Shmuel's din is machlekes Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda. And Shmuel's din goes across everybody. So it can be that that's the machlekes here, where the owner sells glass bottles and the guy picked it up, and therefore it's as if he bought it already, and that's why that's why if he gave it to the kid, he's responsible. And the Chenveni is the one that sells glass bottles. The Chenveni sells glass bottles, but also Rabbi Yehuda Tamei and Rabbi Yehuda. What do you call it? So what's talking about? The father sent his kid with money to buy a glass bottle, because that's what the guy sells. He sells glass bottles. And to bring oil in as well. He wants to buy the glass bottle and bring oil. So therefore, you want to know that the father obeyed the medas by giving the glass bottle to the kid? No, he didn't. He didn't. The kid was buying the bottle from the Chenveni, not the kid came with a glass bottle. So he was buying from the Chenveni a glass bottle, and he's buying oil. So, and also Rabbi Yehuda Tamei, and Rabbi Yehuda is consistent of you, with Rabban Tamayu, and Rabban Tamayu. That what the Rabbanan say. The whole point of the oil and the Isa was to notify him that I want to buy oil and saying, look, I just want to notify you that I want. So therefore, if the vendor gave the glass bottle and the oil and the money to the kid, the vendor is chayiv, because the father didn't mean give it to the kid. He sent a message with the kid. Go ahead and what do you call it? And get. I would like you to send to me or deliver to me somehow. Sorry. Oh, no, but the kid lost also the Isin. So he's chayiv. He came with a pundian, a double thing. So he's chayiv now. It wasn't credit. But I brought him. If so, Amos safe. So tell me the next case. That the Chachamim are moeded to Rabbi Yehuda. If what? If the glass bottle is in the hand of the kid. In that case, Chenveni potter. Why? But Ahmed, you said like do you show that even the glass bottle and the kid, the father was just sending a message. So the guy should never have sent it back with the kid. If the vendor is the one who's selling, you should have sent it back to the kid. You know what we're talking about here? We're not talking about a balabayas. We're not talking about a storekeeper who sells glass bottles or the balabayas selling glass bottles. We're talking about that he took the glass bottle to measure the oil. He's like Rabba. The Amar Rabba said, in other words, he sent the kid a glass bottle to measure the amount of oil. And Rabba says, Hitisha, we know that a zakin ve'ena lefichvoid, if you lose an object. If a guy loses an object and you're a zakin, ve'ena lefichvoid, salam to him, but if you're it's not below your dignity to bend down to get involved in this kind of mitzvah, you don't have to. But the moment you got involved, like by the animal, you struck the animal to move about, now you became chayiv. So the same thing over here. That true, the father sent the bottle with the kids, you're right. But the moment so the Chenveni would have been potter, the kid would have went back. But because the Chenveni took the bottle from the kid, so it's like the Zokin who took the Aved or got involved. Once you got involved, now you take over responsibility. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Hey, Madam Rabba, when does Rabba say we got involved? Because you make things worse. Because by you hitting the animal, you're chasing the animal away. So because you, in a way, made it more difficult for the owner to retrieve his animal because you hit it. When you struck the animal got scared and it might have gone the other direction. So therefore, you're involved. What does that have to do with over here? Just because you picked up the bottle to measure in the father's Aveda Madas, why do we say you got involved there? The father, so he doesn't care about the value of the bottle. He gave it to his kid and you give it back to the kid. What's the problem? In such a case, that's not called getting involved. You didn't change anything. You didn't make it any worse than before. The kid had the bottle before. You took it to measure and you gave it back to the kid. So you didn't do anything. Not like the animal. When you hit the animal, you make things worse. That's why you take over. You're involved. Elam Rava. Ani va'arisha b'chavura. I and the lion in our group. Tagiminua, Umana, Rabzeda. You know what we're talking about? He took the bottle from the kid, not to measure the oil for this person, but for others, which he had no right to. So he's borrowing without permission. How do we view a borrower without permission? But generally speaking, when you borrow something and you put it back, even if you didn't notify the Bava Basra, it's considered a chazara. But when you're a ganef, and you return it, we learned before, you have to notify the Bava Basra that you returned it. Otherwise, it's not called hashav. Hashav like zayla. We have machlek is shoyl shlei medas if you're a gazan and not a gazan. Or shoyl shlei, you're not a gazan. You plan to give it back. You're just borrowing for a minute to measure oil for somebody else, and I'll give it back to you. But I didn't ask you permission. The argument is borrower without permission. What happens? He's considered on your shoyl, so if you return it back to where it came from, and you're borrowing. You're gazlan, and if you're a gazlan, then you have to notify the person. Otherwise, you couldn't. You're gazlan. You're not considered uiz gazlan until you did a proper hashava. So giving it back to the kid is not considered a proper hashava. Because if you're a gazlan, and that's the machlek considered. Says Gufa to just story. We said before, if you pick up something to examine it, bananas biyada, and then an accident happened, chayiv, because it's a fixed price, and everybody wants it. It's as if you bought it already, and then you change your mind, you can put it back. But Kozman, it's in your hand as if you bought it, and you're totally responsible. The hani milu the kitzidam, as long as the price is fixed. The price is fixed. Because looking at it doesn't mean you're going to buy it because maybe it's very expensive. Who got the person? Your person went to the yatket. He went to the slaughterhouse with the butcher. He bought a zayt. He bought, let's say, a side of an animal. While it's picking it up to look at it, there's a fixed price. It looks like, and if you buy a side, fixed price. And while looking at it, also a guy on a horse rode by and just took it out of his hand and ran away. The question was, he responsible enough? He didn't, he was standing and holding the thing, looking at the quality, whatever. Also, the Kameh de Rabbeima, we follow Shmuel. That says the moment, since you know the price, whatever the price is, and you picked it up to look at it if you're happy to take it, the moment you picked it up, it's as if you already bought it. And then when you put it back, as if you put, you change your mind. But Kozman, it's in your hand as if you bought it. So you're liable. Pay for it. If you can find it. The guy's on the horse and you're on the ground. This is talking about the buyer. He's the one who's holding it in his hand. If it's a fixed price, otherwise it's not like you bought it. Now, who did Gavin? One more story. I said that he brought these gourds to the river, the mouth of the river, and I guess he had a little stall over there, and he was selling. Everybody came, who swarmed with dozens of people, and everyone took one. But he didn't know who to charge because everybody took one and was walking away. But you got nothing there, walking away. And he got so angry, didn't know what to do. So Amar Lu, he said, they're $1, whatever it is, a pumpkin. He said, now I'm making it a hegish. So at least they can't have any benefit from it. Also, the Kameh of Kana. I'm not sure exactly who the also is because they're gonna, so they came from Kana. He said, "Ain't automatisch dover she'ein shulay." The moment since everyone know the price, they picked it up as if it's theirs. I mean, they owe you the money, but it's as if it's theirs. So how can you make it hegish? If we know the fixed price, okay, one second. We'll continue tomorrow night at 8 o'clock tonight.